ልጆች ይሞቱ ነበር ወባም ነበር በዛ ላይ ወረርሽኝ ነበር ያንን ለማቋቋም መቻል አቅቶን በረሃብ ምክንያት ልጆችም ያልቁ ነበር አዛውንቶች ያልቁ ነበር
ብዙ ሰዎች ህፃናቶች በየጫካው ውስጥ ህፃናት ልጆች ተጥለው እናት ወስዳ ጥላ ጠፍታለች አባት ወስዶ ጥሎ ጠፍቷል
Addis Ababa, capital of Ethiopia. A mass of humanity gathers for the festival of Epiphany. Just another face in the watching crowd. Awol Mela knows that the vast majority of those celebrating today will return home to their villages, facing poverty and hardship. He believes that the rich countries of the world have failed Africa, and that the time has come for change.
I often wonder if the rich countries stop patronizing Africans and realize that, given the opportunity, it's Africans themselves who will take the continent out of poverty.
Despite the hundreds of billions of dollars donated and thousands of foreign aid workers, the situation has actually got worse. He doesn't deny the corruption of African governments, but blames the developed world for failing to direct its aid to the people who actually need it on the ground.
I don't know how much of that money has come to Ethiopia. Okay. People say billions and billions. I think it is fair to calculate how much of that has trickled down. The money has been spent in different ways. Salaries, big offices somewhere in Europe, or highly paid expatriates. If that money comes directly to farmers, it can change the way they live.
Awol understands the meaning of poverty. He lost his father when very young, and it was his mother who struggled to find the money to educate him.
Well, we had our own small farm, and she did all what she could to raise me, and I know it was difficult for her. That's why I say she was wonderful. It was not easy at that time to grow without a father, because you should have had, I should have had a model.
As he grew from boy to man, he became increasingly frustrated at the lack of progress in Ethiopia. Decades passed, yet the daily plight of his countrymen appeared stuck in a time warp. He's convinced that a good part of the blame lies at the door of foreign agencies.
Development agencies have the tendency to tell people what they should do. Rather than working with the people, they have the tendency to impose their own thinkings and their own approach, and that has never worked, and it will not work.
He began to ask where was the logic of foreigners building a school in a rural area if there was no health care and the children were too sick or too hungry to attend? Why give farmers free seeds when the topsoil has washed away and nothing will grow? He feels it's time that outsiders who don't understand the real needs of Africans stop imposing their solutions and start asking Africans themselves what they think is needed. Virtually unknown to the rest of the world, 5 years ago, he began a huge experiment in the Sodo region of central Ethiopia. It lies within the Great Rift Valley and has been frequently blighted by famine. His aim, to persuade 250,000 people living here to stop accepting free handouts and work their own way out of poverty. He calls it self-help.
We don't give things free of charge. Giving things free of charge is creating a dependency syndrome. But our philosophy is that if people want to be helped, they have to help themselves. That's really important.
His initial plan was simple. Teach 20 men and women new skills on agreement that they each teach 20 more, their followers, who in turn teach 20 more, and so on. Today, those followers already number tens of thousands. For the last 2 years, our cameras have tracked progress of the experiment. We follow the stories of people like Amini Indele, Mulugeta Hailu, and Amarich Doyo, desperate to succeed where past generations had failed. And we found others equally determined to destroy the experiment in order to protect their own interests. Moneylenders, used to living off the backs of the poor, angry their business is threatened. Thieves robbing the hillsides of what few trees remain. Farmers stealing water from their neighbors. And even a rebellion amongst the people of one devastated region, where the men are refusing to work without free food. Can Awol Mela persuade a community which has become dependent on foreign aid for over half a century to change its ways? And can they do it for a fraction of the normal cost, without any help from foreign aid workers? Contrary to popular image, many rural areas of Ethiopia are fertile, especially in the wet season. It's a country which should, in normal circumstances, be able to provide enough food for its population. But the lush vegetation and plentiful supply of water obscure a harsh reality. Drought is often just around the corner. When that happens, crops are destroyed, livestock die, and hunger returns. Just ask the people of Sodo region how many have lost family members to famine or disease.
Every one of you.
The major reason behind the great famines is the reliance on just one crop, maize. When that fails, everyone is vulnerable. Abule Gizo is a prime example. Life is already hard, but should a drought descend, his family faces months of hunger.
ውሃ የምናገኘው ከዝናብ ብቻ ስለሆነ እሱ ብቻ ነው። ዝናብ ከሌለ በቆሎም ላይ በቅል ይችላል።
The first thing Awol Mela and his team had to do was counter the constant threat of famine. The answer lay in just one extraordinary plant. Ethiopians call Enset the magic plant. It's one of the most versatile plants imaginable, every part having a purpose. Previously, it could only grow high up in the mountains, but self-help introduced a hybrid for the lowland plains. It needs very little water and can produce bread and dumplings with the residue used for porridge. Even its leaves can be stripped to make ropes. But its most important feature is its longevity. People here can bury the plant for up to 7 years without any spoiling. Just one of these parcels can feed a family of 6 for a month. In times of drought, they simply dig it up, and it's as good to eat as the day it was buried. This was one of the first groups of followers taught enset cultivation to ward off the threat of starvation. They then taught their followers, and today the plant can be found in farms stretching across the region. Survival is one thing, but if the local economy was ever going to change, the farmers had to stop growing just enough food for their own families and start producing cash crops others wanted to buy.
መጀመሪያ በልጅነቴ አትክልቶችን መንከባከብ ወድ ነበር እና በውስጤ ይሰማኝ ነበር ስለ አትክልት ብዙን ጊዜ ወደ ሌላ ቦታ ከማዘወትረው አትክልቶችን መንከባከብ ወድ ነበር ከዛ ስሜት አኳያ የተነሳ ይሄንን ስራ ከየተድሉን አገኛለሁ ይያልኩኝ ብዙን ጊዜ ከዛ በፊት ማለትም የተመረጡ ዝርያዎች አይኖሩም ነበር
Mulugeta Hailu was one of the first to be taught how to develop a nursery. Creating a mixture of seedlings, including peppers, onions and coffee, he now sells to neighbours.
አሁን እንግዲህ ስልጠናው እኔ እንደሰለጠንኩኝ እኔ ብቻ ተጠቃሚ ልሁን ብዬ አይደለም
For Mulugeta, sharing his knowledge has become just another part of the business. There's a simple logic. The more farmers he teaches, the more buy his seedlings.
ፕላስቲኩ እንቆርጣለን እና ከዛ በኋላ ምን እናደርጋለን አሁን ይሄ አፈሮችን ይሄ አሁን ጨምረናል ይሄንን እናስገባለን ካስገባን በኋላ እንመልሳለን በጣም ኑሯችን ደካማ ነበር
አናሳ ነበር
እና አንቺ ታስታውሻለሽ ልጆቻችን ማስተማር አንችልም ነበር ደፍተር ይሄናል አንገዛም ነበር አይደል
አንገዛም ነበር
እና አንቺ ደግሞ ወደ ገበያ ስትወጪ ባዶ እጅሽ እንደነበረ ነው አይደል
That's all changing, but in a way that no one here ever expected. Until very recently, Sodo region was, like virtually everywhere else, entirely dominated by men. But in a role reversal the likes of which the continent has never seen, it's women who now control family income. A savings and credit scheme, just like microbanking, has been set up, and only women are allowed to borrow money. Apparently, men could no longer be trusted.
ሴት አጠፋን ለቤቱ ነው ሴት አጠፋን ለቤቱ ነው እየነገደ ነው ወንድ ጠግቦ እየሰከረ እያም እየወደቀ ነው እኛው ይሻላል መጀመሪያ ብድር ወሰድኩ እሱ እየሰራው ያለ ከፍት ገዛው እሱ ሰጥቻውንም ወሰድኩ ምግብ ጀመርኩ ሰራው ልጆችን ማስተማር
When Mulugeta's wife Abrihet came up with the idea of building a restaurant in the middle of the countryside, many thought she was mad. But while local incomes rise as the experiment gathers pace, it seems to be working.
ሴቶች ይሻላል ወንዶች ገንዘብ ለማያዝ ሴቶች ይሻላል ገበያ አለን በጥራት ገበያ አለን በደንብ ሰራለን ገበያ እንሄዳለን እንገዛለን እናመጣለን ቤት እንሰራለን ምግባችን በደንብ ገበያ ንግዳችን በደንብ ሰራለን